Okay, I think we got the screen. And this is what you'll see when you open LUXEA. Big button here will show you, um, just a click, and then you can drag all of the files that you want to edit on your video. One thing to keep in mind is that LUXEA will perform so much better if the video files that you're editing, they are stored in your main drive in your computer. So if you have an external drive, our recommendation is to create a folder, let's say on your desktop, on your PC, and then copy and paste the footage that you want to edit onto your desktop. That will ensure a much better workflow, um, at least for this current version of LUXEA. So that's pretty important to keep in mind. And so I am going to import a bunch of video clips, audio clips, and photos into LUXEA. And I am going to wait to see them import. The great thing about LUXEA that I find it has a pretty nice advantage to many, many other video editing software, including top ones like Premiere Pro, is that 4K playback is actually really, really smooth. So if you are recording in 4K, which is probably most of you now, then you can ensure you can know that LUXEA will handle your files really well. Now that I've imported all of my files, you can see that they are mixed. We have some audio files, video files, and photos. And we also have we have a video file here next to the audio, another audio file, but then the some other audio files are up here. So if you want to sort of organize all of your footage, the best way to do that would be, or your media files would be, to click right here, and you can sort them first by media type. So now you will see that all of my videos are first, all of my sounds are next, and all of my photos are at the end. Peter, the recommendations for PC specs, yeah, LUXEA doesn't take too much of your computer. So, I mean, if you have a video card, so you will have better performance, but it works really well with computers that are not too um, agile, so to say. But you can take a look in the LUXEA PD page for more detailed information about that. Now that we've sorted our files by media type, just know that you can also sort them by duration, the time you modified them, but you can also group them, which I find is the easiest way to keep your files organized, to keep your media organized. And I will group them by file type. So now, if I minimize my tabs here, you will see that I have my video tab, my audio tab, and my image tab. So that's a really nice way to keep things organized. Is MP4 the best format to record video? It totally is. It's the most common one, and you know, you'll have sort of a guaranteed correct playback on LUXEA by using MP4 files. But know that LUXEA will also handle files from like your iPhone, which can have a different file format used for better compression. So let's keep going. Okay, so now that we have our files organized, let's just drag one file onto our timeline. And before I do that, a nice way to start figuring out a certain workflow in LUXEA is the following. On the right top here, you have program and you have source. If you double click on your video file, you'll see that the source monitor is activated. So what that means is that you are looking or you are previewing your files before you import them onto your timeline. And the timeline will be the place where you'll arrange, edit, cut, split, paste, and etc. All of the operations that you want to do when you're video editing. So you can add all of your files to the timeline, and we'll take a look at how it works just now. Can I put media in different folders for different projects? Totally. You can do that. Yeah. I mean, if you like, a good way to do that would be create separate folders on your desktop with the name of a certain, with different names, and then create different projects. You can totally do that. And you can also add new folders here, but I recommend if you can have different folders here in one project, but I recommend if you're doing different video projects, have different, just do different projects. Don't try to combine multiple video editing, projects into the same file or into the same, LUXEA file. I have this footage and I can, with the space bar, I can select where do I want it to start playing back. So I can find where I'd like to add this part of the footage into my timeline. And if you find that your playback is a little bit choppy, it might be because you're editing. In this case, I'm editing 4K files, and every video editing software, when you're previewing, benefits from reducing the playback resolution of those files just for preview purposes. So it doesn't mean that you will lose quality on your export. It only means because we have a small screen right here, we don't need to preview in 4K. And to reduce the resolution, all we have to do is click on this little button right here. If I select full, I'll be playing back in full resolution, and I'll have a little bit of a harder time scrolling through my footage. It'll be a little slow. But if I change my resolution to, for example, 1/4 or 1/8, even 1/16 for extreme cases, you will see that playback is a lot smoother. I can find my way onto the file. I can find my way in the image a lot faster. So that's super important to keep in mind. And I'm going to work with 1/4, which gives me a really good, as you can see, I can move left and right without major lag. So I'm just going to find maybe a little bird flying on this footage. I think we have it right in the beginning. So there's a seagull. I don't know if you guys can see the seagull, but we have a seagull flying. And so this clip is a 3-minute clip, and I only want to add just like 10 seconds. So to only add 10 seconds, all you have to do is select an input or an in point and an out point. To select your in point, just click on I on your keyboard, and you'll see how this yellow bar displays on the timeline of your source monitor. So the way I like to do it, I like to play back the video that I'm going to be the clip that I'm going to be adding to my timeline just by hitting space. And a lot of video editing has to be done by feeling. A good rule of thumb when you are deciding how long a clip should be, when you're looking at the footage, you're like understanding what the clip is, right? So we got trees, we got ocean, we got a bird flying. It doesn't take me too long to understand what's going on. So the clip doesn't have to necessarily be that long, but I also want to create more of a calm video, a relaxing video. So a longer shot in that case would be better. So with having that in mind, sort of the feeling that I want to express in my video, I will play this back and decide, okay, that's a good moment to cut. And then I will mark the end of that clip with the O key on your keyboard to mark the out point. So we'll do that. I'll hit the space bar. The seagull is gone. And then I hit the space bar again, and I'll mark my out point. So that's a good way to start. And then to bring your clip onto the timeline, you have the following options. When you, and we'll look at these two options later when we have more clips in our timeline. But for now, I'm going to click on overwrite, which is also just the dot key on your keyboard. And before I do that, or right after I click that, LUXEA will usually ask you that it'll try to match the resolution and frame rate of your original clips to the timeline's frame rate and resolution. So the timeline usually has 1080p resolution, which is full HD, but because we're editing 4K footage, LUXEA is realizing that and is asking me, do you want to keep it in 1080p or do you want to change to 4K like your footage is? And because we want the best quality for our final product, I will want to change the project setting to match the media. So I'll click yes, and you'll see our little clip right here on the bottom. I can drag it up or down, left and right, wherever it feels more comfortable to you. I usually like to have my main clips on the top and then start building down with other clips, with sound clips, etc. So we have our ocean clip. What if I'm like, oh, I wish I could just, bring it back just a little bit because and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here by clicking 50% right here. I want my seagull to appear a little bit before, I want the seagull to appear into the frame. So I would need to move this clip to the left. And a really easy way to do that is just drag your clip a little bit to the right. And when you put your cursor or your mouse right on the edge, you'll see these arrows showing. That means that you can stretch your clip. So I'm just going to stretch it a little bit, not too much. Just there. That's good. And you can see the seagull on the top right just coming out of the trees there. So now I will fit my screen to its original resolution. And now that I like that beginning more, I can just drag my clip to the left. And I think that works better for the shot. There, I want to end it there. And again, all I have to do to start shaping my editing is I can just drag left or right my clip. So I'm just going to drag it right there to where my indicator in the timeline ends. So we got a first clip. Please let me know if you have any questions so far. I'll be happily just answer all of them. Okay. You cannot see the seagull. It's just too small, probably. So look, I'm just gonna bring this to the middle, and I'll increase this to 100. And I can move this a little bit. There's the seagull. Okay, so I'm going to fit. And as you can see, I can drag my clip from inside my monitor. And if by accident I did this, you can just hit Control Z. It's not a seagull. It could be an eagle. Well, anyways. So what are the green and red markers on the timeline? That's a good one. The green and red markers will come in handy later when we export our footage. What they do is basically they'll just mark an in and out point inside of your timeline as well. Hey Dana, yeah, you can do that. You can just put the clip on a track and edit it there, cutting out in the way you want to. This is just one sort of workflow. You can drag the preview window to a second monitor. That's also a huge benefit of LUXEA, which is not available on all some other video editing software, is that you can work with multi-monitor. So the green the green check mark is where your selection begins and the red is where it ends. So if I wanted to just export this is the way to do it. If by accident you find yourself, oh, I added this red thing, I right click on it and click deselect, that's the way how you get rid of accidentally putting, the green and red marks there. You can also double click right here where the timeline numbers indicators are. You double click and then that will also get rid of that selection. So let's add another clip. And this time, let's try to do what Dana is suggesting. So I could just drag any clip here. And as you can see, if I scroll through it, you'll notice that there's some slight camera movement and a change of exposure. So I want to make sure that I use the clip that looks a little bit darker with a little bit less camera movement. And it's a little bit hard to see, but there is an eagle in there that flies towards the camera. So I'm just going to, you can either drag this to the right as we saw, and now your clip will start from there. And you can see, hopefully you can see the eagle flying towards us. Another way you can cut your clip is by simply going to the split option, which is Control B. So Control B will automatically split your clip right where your cursor is, and then you can select the beginning or what you don't want and just delete it. If you want to get rid of the space in between clips, you can right-click in the space and click Close Gaps on Track. Now we have our intro shot, which is a very wide shot, into more of a closer shot. And I'm just going to mute my reaction to the eagle by right-clicking and selecting Mute. This will mute your clip, and we'll see later how to add a separate audio track into our project to make sure that our sound, I usually try to do that is I don't use camera audio I I just add an extra audio track to my project to make everything blend together better. So I'm going to mute all of my clips. And as you can see, we've transitioned from our wide shot into more of a detail shot when our eagle is approaching. I want the eagle to I want to see the eagle even closer. And because we're doing 4K, it gives us pretty good room to zoom in into the image without losing too much quality. So to do that, all I have to do is just grab one of these blue dots on the corner and start increasing its size until I reach something that I like. When you start doing that, you'll notice on the bottom left, you have the properties pane. And the properties pane is a place where you can keyframe, which is something that hopefully we'll have time to look at later, but that's more of an um, advanced options for editing. If I reduce this, you'll notice that the scale on my properties pane on the bottom left is shrinking. So now it's a 90 scale, 90.7. And if I increase it, it goes 120, 130. And for 4K footage, I think 150 is totally works. It's an acceptable zoom in without losing too much quality. And I can just select the scale and type 150. And now you'll see that my image is a lot bigger. So how does that look? Now you can see the eagle coming towards us a lot more clearer. I really don't necessarily like these branches that are popping to the left here, left and top. So maybe I'll just increase even more. So that's better. So I've adjusted both of my clips. I'm starting with a wide shot, and then I'm closing in onto the rock. I'm going to drag my clip a little bit to the right to give a little bit more space before the eagle starts flying towards me. And I'm going to play it back to see how that looks now. That's better. You can see the eagle getting ready to fly. And now I'm going to, can you zoom within the clip? Well, exactly. That's what I'm going to show right now. And we will get into keyframes, but this would be one of the easiest keyframe abilities that you can do while editing in LUXEA. Okay, so before we do that, Mary is asking, how can I insert a clip in between two clips? So if you wanted to do that, you can, my recommendation is to drag your clip and place it on a separate, if I place it, you'll see that I can't really place it in between the clip. So I'll just put it underneath, and then I can drag this clip, make space for my other clip. I then split this clip, delete it, and now I've added, delete the rest of it, and now I've added a second shot, or a shot in between those two clips. I can then drag that clip to the same track, track 4, which is where my original clip is. There's a little bit of camera movement here in the beginning, as you can see. I'm setting the tripod, so I'm just going to drag this to the right. Still some camera movement in there. Maybe this will work better. That's good. And I got some seagulls flying in the background there too. Okay, Let's see. Okay, Joseph, thanks for joining. Can you move multiple clips over at once? Yes, just select them, just like that, and you can drag all of them, just like that. Okay, so before I show you how to do a zoom in or a zoom out with a static clip, why don't we quickly look into how I can create a transition between two clips. Just go to the transition tab on the top. And I'm a classic guy. You have all of these options. If you hover your mouse over all of the options in the transition tab, you will see how the transition is going to look. So you have many options: cube rotate, deposit up, dissolve, which is sort of this like granular dissolve. And the classic one, most famous transition in all the world, the fade transition, which is just, you can't beat it. So to add a transition, just drag your effect in between your two clips. And now you will have a transition in between those clips. You can make that transition longer by dragging its edges left or right. You can have a super long fade. It feels very dreamy. That's pretty cool. Or you can have a super short fade. Right? Okay, so of course all of those things are optional. It just depends on what kind of style you want to give your video. We're just going to leave it there. And I'm going to show you how to zoom out. So as you can see, we've zoomed in quite a bit into 170. And now our eagle is flying towards us. If I wanted to zoom out at start zooming out at a specific point, I just have to find it. So let's say right there. And now I'm going to head over to my properties pane, and I'm going to add a keyframe in the exact moment where I want my footage to start zooming out. This also applies for zooming in. It's just going to be the opposite. If I click my keyframe, I've added the starting point where I want my zoom to start. But because I've only added one keyframe, nothing is really happening. What I need to do is I need to add another keyframe that will mark the end of that sort of transformation. And I'm going to bring back my scale to 100. You'll notice that the position of the clip doesn't match the monitor. And what that means is that I need to also add a keyframe on the position option right below transform. And because this position applies to my zoomed in part of this clip, I have to drag this keyframe so that I make sure that when the zoom out starts happening, the values are correct. So if I drag my cursor, my yellow cursor on the properties pane, you'll see the clip starts to zoom out. And make sure that you place your cursor right where your other keyframe is, and you'll see that because this little rhomboid here will turn red when you are positioned right where that keyframe is. And then I will move my video to match my monitor. A keyframe, all of your footage is, they're all frames, right? So it's frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. Cinema works in 24 frames per second, meaning you have a static image, a frame, 24 frames for every second. That's how, so that's what a frame is. And a keyframe is basically an information that you give on a specific frame on a specific moment. So the keyframe will mark like, you know, however the clip is in that moment. And if you want to start playing around with it, like moving the clip left and right, then you will have to set certain values on one frame and then set certain values on a later frame. So what we did now is, in this particular frame, we've added this keyframe to mark the beginning of our edit. And if I play it back, we should start to see, there you go. So now we can see the zoom out. And I can make that zoom out slower or faster by dragging my last keyframes either right or left. So if I bring it a lot closer to my first keyframes, you will notice that the zoom out is a lot quicker. There. And that works beautifully with our seagull. I mean, our eagle. So that works for me in terms of this clip. And I'm going to drag the rest of it to the left. And now I have a 30-second short video with some scenery I recorded in Ucluelet, or I mean, this is, yeah, Ucluelet in Vancouver Island. And so we've added transitions, we've added some zoom in and zoom out during a clip with keyframes. I can decide, like, now that I'm looking at my footage, and this also is something that you do have to keep in mind, you should constantly be looking at your video from the beginning. Because we're telling a story, you need to, because we're telling a story with time, you need to look at your video every now and then from the beginning to make sure that the rhythm, the pace is what you want. So after looking at that, my mind is, oh, I wish that zoom started a bit sooner. The zoom that happens right when the eagle starts flying towards the camera. And so all I have to do is select my first keyframes and drag them to the left. This will make the zoom out start a lot sooner. So let's play it just from here to see how that feels. And so now I have a slower zoom out, but it starts a bit sooner. And it ends right when our eagle leaves the shot. Let's say I want to mark the end of a certain moment. What I can do is I can add a fade to black transition right at the end of that clip, which sort of is the closing first chapter of our movie, right? Okay, so of course, no video project feels alive if you don't have audio. And my little camera sadly didn't accept or doesn't have an input for external microphone. So I did bring my field recorder, my little Tascam, to record some audio in good quality that I knew I could later add it to the video to have better quality. So let me know if you guys can hear what LUXEA is playing. Can you hear the sound? No, no. Okay. Let's see. Um, okay, here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to share the sound. Can you hear that? Great. So this is a very sort of wide capture of the ocean from a distance, which works really well for our video. I'm just going to select an in and out point sort of randomly, and I'm going to click on overwrite. This will bring my audio into my timeline on a separate track, and I will bring it closer in so that I can match it with my video. Now, you might notice that the audios you're importing are either too loud or too quiet. And so how can we change that? Just as we saw, once you click on a video clip, you will see the properties pane display the information of that clip. If you click on your audio clip, you will see the level option right to your left. Let's just go ahead and increase it to the maximum, which is 12 dB. Now my ocean sound is quite louder. And because the same audio is playing through the cuts, it makes everything blend better. Good to know, Chris. So it gives us this sense of place, and we can finally start watching our video as its complete audiovisual product. So if I wanted to fade out my audio right at the end, like my fade to black, again, I can use keyframes. So I can place my yellow cursor right where my fade to black clip starts. I'll add a keyframe. I'll move my keyframe. First, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. Yeah, don't worry. It will be available to watch. I know it's a lot of information, but yeah, so you can watch it as many times as you want to make sure that, yeah, you're able to understand all of it. So I just added a keyframe to my audio track right where my fade to black is happening on the top there. I'm going to drag my yellow cursor a little bit to the right. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to come back to my level information and type 0. After typing 0, you will see that the second keyframe has been added, and then I'll just drag this keyframe to the end, right? So I can move it around. I'll just drag it to the end to make sure that the fade out happens with my video clip. Good question, Mary. Okay, so now we are going to look at how to add some text, and we are also going to see how to do some basic image correction, exposure, and things like that. And I'll show you how to export your file. Oh, before we do that, I'm just going to add this little piece of music. It's very relaxing, and it's royalty free, I don't know if you guys, do you have a YouTube channel? Type 1 if you have a YouTube channel, 0 if you don't. So I recommend you can just start a YouTube channel even if you don't upload anything, because inside YouTube Studio, you can access free sounds, free music. There's plenty of songs that you can add to your videos with no concern if they can be used or not. I always use them for my AC/DC videos, so it's a really good thing to keep in mind. So I'm going to add my music track right there. I'm going to split it with Control B, delete the rest, and you can see how the waveforms start to appear right there. And this sound is particularly loud, so I'm just going to reduce the levels by 6 dB. So I will type -6, and that will reduce the overall volume of my clip, and you'll see that because the waveform will look smaller. Let's take a quick look at that. See how it feels with the sound, with the music. Why don't we add a fade in? If we added a fade out, it makes sense that we add a fade in. So I'm just going to my transition tab and dragging my fade to the beginning of my first clip. Now, and I can make that longer. And we've created this meditative, calming nature video. All right, I'm going to quickly add a fade out on my audio track, on my, my music. And we are going to add some text and some color correction before we export our video. Super straightforward. If you want to add some text or even captions, you can import a caption file. So are you familiar with SRT files? Type 1 if you're familiar with them, type 0 if you're not. SRT files are the most common file format for captions. So subtitles or, and there are some SRT generators over there. But you can also create your own captions here in LUXEA Pro. So the way to do that, if we had some sort of narration, let's say that narration would say, hello, welcome to Vancouver Island. And I want that caption to appear right after my fade in ends. All I have to do is just click on Add Caption. And you will see a new track appears on top of your video file. And it's hidden right here on the bottom. So we're going to type and say hello. And we will increase the size. And now you can start to see it on my monitor. And I can place it wherever I want. It could be on the top, it could be on the bottom. And I can also add a background right here. By default, the background will be set to 0, but I can drag the 0 to the right to be fully black. And you can change your font type. You can make it bold. You can make it italic. You can change the color. It could be yellow, which is very classic, right? For captions. And if you don't want to be fixed in a particular position that you can choose in this square selection here, you can drag either the X and Y values left, the Y, for example, if I wanted to bring it up a little, and down if I wanted to bring it down. So I have my first caption, and let's imagine there's a voice that says hello. To add another caption, the best way to do this would be to simply copy and paste the same track, the same caption track, and then just change what it says. So now we have our captions with the same style. It's very striking to see a caption appear with a new clip. So a good technique in that case is to add your caption in between two clips, which will make your transition better. So I'm going to delete these captions because I don't think we need them for this project, but I am going to add a title video. And to do that, I have to go to the text tab, and I can choose amongst all these styles. I just want a very simple, sober style text, and I'm going to drag it to my timeline. Very similar as we saw in captions. Or I could do Ucluelet, Vancouver Island, or Ucluelet, BC as my title. I can bring it to the top, sort of to make use of this white space that I have there. I can make it black, or I can make it blue, or I can even, with this pin drop here, I can select the color from anywhere on my image. So I could use even the dark green here to make it match better. And now I have my title. Let's change the font. Could be Roboto. So now we've added our text, and same as all of our other clips, we can add fade ins and fade outs. So if I drag my fade and place it on top of my text, you'll see the title fade in. And I'm just going to make sure that this fades out right before we change to our other clip. Just like that. To your text, you can add multiple effects like inner glow, inner shadow, bevel, an outline. I could choose the color of that outline, the thickness of the outline. I can make it green so that we can actually see it. Like that. And I can also just add a very simple shadow. I can select the position of my shadow, how blurry I wanted it to be, the distance from the original text, and the opacity. A good way to do shadow is to bring it to the maximum, 100% opacity, and then reduce it until you think you don't see it. But if you disable the little box, you'll notice that there is a big difference. And I think I'm going to change the color of my text to yellow or maybe gray. That's nice. Okay, so now we have our text. If I wanted to change the color a little bit, you can go to the filter tab up here, and you'll have a wide range of effects that you can add. You can add vignettes. You can change the white balance of your videos to make them warmer or colder. And all we are going to do is probably just add a little bit more vibrance to our footage. So I just need to drag my effect to my clip, and then you will see this yellow line appear in the bottom. And that's where your effects will be stored in LUXEA Pro. And when you click on it, you will see the properties pane changes to the properties of that effect. So with vibrance, I can add more saturation, which makes all the colors in my image pop a lot more. Or I could add more vibrance, which is different in the sense that it brings the colors that are less prominent in your image, it brings those up. So it doesn't bring everything up. It just brings, colors that are a bit more faint. But we're just going to add just a touch to all of our clips to make color pop a little bit more. And we're just going to do a 50% vibrance on our clips. So I'm just going to add my clip here and select 50. And now I want to show you how, let's say I added vibrance, but then I also added a vignette. And you will see that I have two effects happening on this clip, but I want all of my clips to have that effect. What you have to do in that case is right-click on your clip and click just a normal Control-C or copy, bring it to a new clip, right-click, and click on Paste Properties. After you do that, you will see all of the options that you can paste to your new clip. And so you will see here on my Filter tab, I have Vibrance and Vignette. So I want to make sure that I only copy the Vibrance and Vignette effects, and now the beginning of my footage has the same effects as the rest of my footage. Okay, so we've added vignette, we added vibrance. Someone is asking if we can use LUTs, and for sure we can. They are right here on the top of your filter menu. So let's just remove that effect by selecting it and clicking delete on your keyboard, and let's drag a color LUT. Now, film is one of my favorites, and I can just reduce the opacity to make it a bit less striking. So there we go. So this would be with no color LUT, and this would be with. So a slight difference, but a really cool feeling that it adds to the video. Okay, so sadly we are running out of time. So a LUT is oh, I'm forgetting the exact definition, but what it is it's like a filter, but it's more powerful than a filter because it changes the color. It changes all the colors in your image. You can definitely look it up on Google. Sadly, we don't have so much time to look into that. And Linda is asking um, how Tone would edit a large video file. For instance, I may want to make individual files. Yeah, okay, Chris, thanks for joining. Yeah, so my suggestion for that, Linda, is to grab the large video file, bring it into your media, drag it onto the timeline, and start chopping. Start cutting it, and just how we showed in the beginning of this video. That way you'll be able to edit a large file. So before we leave, we will just export. And I know that there's a lot that we still couldn't cover. This is only an introduction to video editing. I hope that you found it useful. And to export, editing does not affect the original. That's a really good question. I guess that's different sometimes when you're editing photos in edit mode in AC/DC, for example. Editing all the footage here does not affect in any way your original footage. So that's really good to know. Um, Richard, why don't you just send me a message in our community? Maybe you can send me one of those files and we can figure that out. Okay, so to export, just click the yellow button here, and you will see that you can export into different formats. MP4, as we said, would be the best one overall. And I'm just going to type it workshop. And then you can see that some of the settings are the resolution is 4K. It's on 23.97 frames per second, almost 24 frames per second. It will show you the estimated file size, but you can also change your settings, change your quality to best, for example, and I will bring my audio quality up to the maximum, 320. 96 is really low for audio quality. So if you export a video and then you're like, why does it sound so bad? Make sure that your audio is set to either 256 or 320. Super important that your audio sounds good. And that's it. So I'm just going to click export, and I will see my little preview window of my video being exported. Great. Thanks for joining, Peter. Oh yeah, content packs. So content packs, they are a bunch of overlays, texts, different sort of effects that are free in LUXEA. And I'll just, after we finish exporting our video, I'll quickly show you how to access them. You can decide to use them or not. It all depends on what kind of video you are creating. Oh, Richard, you're asking about Photo Ultimate, Photo Studio Ultimate. Yeah, you probably will have better luck opening those files on LUXEA instead of AC/DC Photo Studio. So there we go. Our video is finalized, and then you can just open it up in a new folder. We'll click OK, and we'll just very quickly head over to our content pack folder. And as you can see, once you install LUXEA and you don't have any content packs, you will see this appear. Tons of free content packs are available to download. If you already have some and want to download more, you just got to go to get content on this little arrow on the top right, and that will display all the content packs that you can install. As I was saying, there are a bunch of overlays, text styles that you can add. We got some wedding packs, business packs, and you can watch a preview of them. And so you can just hit download. And then you will see your content packs appear on LUXEA. So what I mean by overlays is they're basically just images that you can drag on top, which won't make any sense here, but now I've added this little phone onto my video. So you can explore all content packs you want and use them in your clips. What do you mean, Marie, with can you make a video with menu play and select scenes? Well, let me know. I think that's it for us today. And I hope this was helpful. And it'd be so nice if for the people that haven't started video editing, that this hopefully gets you going. It's such a cool hobby. It's such a cool um, skill to have, and you can have so much fun with it. So thank you for joining. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Bernard. Like a movie that you can play the whole thing or go to. Right. Okay. I guess I see what you're saying, but that is just you cannot do what you're asking is not something that a video editor can do. I think you're asking if you can like, yeah, divide a movie into chapters and then have some sort of menu that will bring you to those chapters. A video editor is not going to do that. It will have to be a different sort of like a DVD um, creator. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not as hard as I'm thinking. I just would have to look into it. So if you can send me, Marie, a message, just a private message on our community, I can look that up and figure maybe a way to create those menus because that would be interesting to figure it out. Um, so Richard, you're not well, you can either send it to my email. I'm just gonna leave my email right there, and then or you can just message me through ACDC Connect. You can send me a direct message. If you're not on ACDC Connect, you should totally be in there because that's where we post all of our workshops and a bunch of other cool things. And with that, I wish everyone a nice weekend, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining.